Chris said, I'm Jonathan Maestery, Principal Solutions Architect at AWS. Based in Singapore, today I'm presenting to you from our offices in New Zealand. Lots to talk about in this session. We've had an incredible year. Lots of fantastic innovation and invention for our customers. So let me get started. Let me tell you about our business and how we're going. And then I'll talk through the highlights of the year for you, where we've been innovating in terms of new products and features. I'll give you a sample of them. Talk about some of the business use cases we're trying to solve. And so yes, it's been an amazing year at AWS. Last year in 2014, we started talking about cloud as the new normal. This is a really important message. We're seeing it more and more across our business with talking to our customers, looking at what they're doing on our platform. Things like deploying new applications to the cloud by default, migrating existing applications as quickly as possible. These, two use cases, two scenarios are becoming more and more common, and we definitely believe it's become normal. And what are the other factors that are helping us think this? As I talk through, what we're seeing across with our customers across Asia Pacific, especially. First up, over 1 million active customers on our platform. And these are customers that have used our service in the last month. So active customers, over 1 million. This is a really exciting time for us. We can see the growth in our customer base, and this is a great indicator that customers are getting success on our platform. Just some more kind of data points for you to, as I kind of build out a picture here of what's happening with the AWS Cloud. Instance usage. So this is our compute service, Elastic Compute Cloud. 95% year-on-year growth, comparing Q2 2014 to Q2 this year. So, phenomenal growth across our compute platform, and you can see the graph in front of you on the screen now. Another data point is Amazon storage service, S3, simple storage service, data transfer. We're seeing 100%, 120% year-on-year growth across our S3 data transfer service. Again, massive growth, really exciting, and just shows that customers are continue to adopt the service and move storage to S3. Another really exciting area of growth we're seeing is our database services. Increased 127% year-on-year, comparing Q2 2014 to Q2 this year. It's our fastest growing section of our business. Really exciting to see, and another indicator. But on from besides those services, where else are we seeing great growth? And our pace of innovation is definitely increasing. And so far this year, we've launched 559 new features and/or services so far in 2015. Since we started our AWS Cloud in 2006, 1,773 new features or services. So we've got a great pace of innovation, and that's continuing to accelerate year on year. To give you an example of our history of innovation and what we introduced this year, you can see the slide on screen now, and I'm showing you just a sample of the new services, new major services we've launched over the last 6-7 years. So on the right-hand side of the screen there, 2015, that's this year. Again, really exciting, a large number of new services so far this year. AWS IoT, Internet of Things service, Mobile Hub, our EC2 container registry, AWS Database Migration Service, Amazon Inspector. Keep going down the list. New services such as MariaDB support and relational database service, Amazon Import-Export Snowball, which I'm going to talk about today, QuickSight, our web application firewall, and there's more on the list. So they all, on the right-hand side, you can see all the new services we've launched this year. Looking further to the left, you can see that over the last 3 or 4 years, it's been an incredibly busy, number of years for us. We've launched some, again, additional exciting services like last year with Lambda, Code Commit, Code Pipeline, and Code Deploy, and of course our directory service, Cognito. They all came last year. So the innovation and the invention we're doing on for our customers is rapidly increasing, and we're seeing some fantastic new services get launched. How does our business look from, just a quick financial perspective? So we're now a $7 billion plus annual run rate business. So again, we're seeing great growth from revenue perspective. From an analyst perspective, what is Gartner saying about us? So, this is a really interesting data point. And in 2015, Gartner Magic Quadrant for Cloud Infrastructure as a Service. You can see on screen now we're in the top right-hand leaders quadrant. One data point that we like out of this report is that Gartner said we had the compute capacity of the next 14 competitors combined. So just an interesting kind of data point on the scale of the AWS service there. But let me kick on. Let me talk now about customers and how they're using our platform. So startups, you can see on screen here a number of startups, some really exciting startups using us now on AWS. Airbnb is what I'm going to just talk about for a second. 400,000 room nights every night are booked on Airbnb. They do it with a total operation staff of 5 people. Really interesting, really exciting customer running, entirely in the cloud on AWS. Born in AWS, born in the cloud, if you like. You can see some more, other great examples there: Pinterest and Dropcam, Pass, etc. Let me keep going. Just talk about our enterprise customers. So a few great examples here. Let me just talk about Hess Corporation. Hess is a leading global independent energy company. In 2013, they announced plans to divest their downstream business and looked at AWS to help with moving a lot of their workloads from legacy infrastructure to the cloud. Their IT department decided to migrate their infrastructure from their own data centers into AWS. Some more examples there: Nokia, Samsung with their smart TV application running on AWS. And I'll just move on to public sector. Some great example of public sector customers here. We have 2,000 government agencies, 5,000 academic institutions, and 18,000 nonprofits running on AWS. Systems integrators, we've got some great global systems integrators, some GSIs, Accenture, Cognizant, Wipro. Born in the cloud, we've got GS, Bulletproof, CloudReach, and we have Adobe, Atlassian, Oracle. A lot of our great software vendors, independent software vendors, are now writing their software, writing their technology for cloud first, writing it to run on AWS, which leads me to the marketplace, which is another really exciting area of Amazon Web Services. We now have 35 categories on our marketplace, 2,300 listings, and 800 ISVs. So, why are companies flocking to the cloud so quickly? So, cloud is most definitely the biggest technology shift in our lifetimes. And there's a number of reasons why we're seeing companies flocking to the cloud. There's 6 kind of primary, business reasons we see, and I'll just kind of recap those. These are kind of, what we talk about and have talked about for a number of years now. The first being to move from capital expense to variable expense, lower variable expense, stop guessing capacity and remove that question of capacity management, increased agility, removing the undifferentiated heavy lifting, the things that you do in your business that your customers don't see and don't necessarily see value in. So, undifferentiated heavy lifting, moving that to, AWS. And then, of course, the opportunity to go global in minutes. This is a really big benefit, in the space of a few minutes, you can go from one region or one location with your application to anywhere in the world. So these are, and these we've been talking about for a number of years, but they don't necessarily explain why people are so passionate about cloud. When we talk to developers, CIOs at any size company, they'll tell us, they're starting to tell us that it's about the freedom and ability to control their own destiny with cloud. So prior to the cloud, builders had been constrained for many years. And they were constrained because we're told builders not to waste any time with inventing. And whenever they needed to invent, they needed infrastructure. And whenever they requested infrastructure, the answer they typically got was that infrastructure wasn't available. It was going to take time to provision. And that meant that the best ideas were locked in builders' heads while waiting for infrastructure to be provisioned or provided. So what we've seen there is that the movement to cloud is very much about giving builders the freedom control over their own destiny, giving builders the ability to come with an idea, influence the business, and then get that idea built into a product and live as soon as possible. So to do this, if cloud is about freedom, so what are the freedoms it's producing? So we've come up with 7 kind of key areas that I'm going to talk to you about today. The first is the ability to build unfettered. And that first ability to build is agility. One thing we've learned from talking to our customers over the last year or two is that the faster a customer can work, the faster a customer can build and deploy their applications, the more successful they are. We've seen this across all the different verticals, all our different customers. Speed is winning. The fastest customers that can get their product, their application, their workload live in front of their customers is incredibly important. The ability to increase speed is agility. Now there's a number of factors in agility. What is agility? So agility is made up of kind of 2 key areas, quick to provision and a vast technology platform. So when we talk about quick to provision, it's not necessarily just about provisioning virtual servers or provisioning storage. It's about provisioning everything related to an application or workload, whether it's the security, the storage, databases, the automation, the configuration. All of those elements tied together is important for quick to provision. It's no longer good enough just to provision storage or just to provision virtual servers. You've got to be able to provision everything about the infrastructure. The next is a vast infrastructure technology platform. And let me show you what we're doing there at AWS. On your screen now, you can see an example of the different services we've built since 2006 across the AWS Cloud Platform. And this is another area that's helping customers. So we have agility to help them go faster, agility being quick to provision. The next is giving them services, giving you services that deliver and help with the undifferentiated heavy lifting across a number of different categories. So if you look on the bottom right, traditionally we started with AWS Cloud back with compute, storage, databases, networking. But over the last 9 years, we've been listening and we built a number of high-level services which help take away particular use cases so that you don't need to do it anymore. This means you can focus on the development aspects or the operational aspects of your applications or workloads. For example, you can see we have security and compliance services, mobile services, analytics, marketplace. We have our also all of our enterprise application services as well. But it's not just an expansive range of services. Each one of those services needs to have also deep capability, deep functionality. So over the last 9 years, in each of those different categories, we've been building out really deep feature sets. For example, on compute, where we have 8 different categories on our compute service. This allows you to have compute tailored to specific workload optimizations. The next is databases, and you can see we now have a broad range of databases for customers. On our relational database service, we now support SQL Server, Oracle, Postgres, Amazon Aurora, MySQL, and even MariaDB now. Encryption, we've expanded our encryption capabilities to make sure that's really deep as well. And on the right-hand side there, access control, giving you really comprehensive access control for the services you host on AWS. So this kind of points to, just something worth, highlighting to you. So Gartner said, Liddy Leong from Gartner said last year that organizations cannot treat cloud IaaS providers like commodities. We think this is really important. You see, if you only utilize the most common aspects, such as compute, storage, databases, or network, you miss a lot of the rich capabilities and the abilities to accelerate your ability to get your application services workloads developed and deployed. If you just commoditize and use the generic components of an infrastructure as a service platform, you may not get access to all the benefits. So the next freedom, the freedom to get the real value from your data. So let me spend a few minutes now talking about data. Yeah. The AWS Cloud gives you an ability to get data to the market faster than ever before. We help you get freedom and get real value from your data. Now with cloud, it's never been easy to collect, store, analyze, and share your data. And I have on screen for you 7 different components as an example for big data workloads. So that's the storing of records in S3, analytics clusters, data warehousing, or streaming data, or even predictive analytics. And some examples for you of our customers using big data and analytics on the cloud. And let me just talk about, for example, Entity Docomo. Entity Docomo have 4 petabytes on their data in their data warehouse using our Redshift service, where they're processing and analyzing large amounts of data to optimize the ROI of their marketing campaigns. They're also reducing operating costs by up to 75%. Philips are using big data analytics for their Health Suite application on AWS to simplify the diagnosis of patient information. So now, more than ever before, the cloud's allowing us to move quickly and save and analyze much larger data than ever before. What we're finding with our customers is that it's normally a small group of people who have the technical skill to use analytics services. But what really we want is for all companies, employees to have access to big data and analytics information throughout the organization. If we have most people getting access to information or access to data, this helps them answer questions quicker. When you need to continually go through IT or operations folks to get access to data through your organization, this becomes a burden or a hindrance and decreases your agility or speed of access to data in the organization. So we have launched a service called Amazon QuickSight. And it's fast, easy, cloud-powered business intelligence, and it's now available in preview. Let me talk a little bit about Amazon QuickSight. So our intention is to be able to give you fast analysis in less than 60 seconds. We're going to be able to give you blazing fast queries with a new in-memory query engine that we developed, visualizations, integrate with existing data sources, and share and live snapshots analysis throughout your organization. And the reason the additional benefit to doing this, having this service on AWS, is that it's 1/10 the cost of old guard BI tools. So let me just kind of step through some of the benefits of QuickSight and why we developed this service. We want to make access to data and the dissemination of data, of your big data in your organization, as easy as possible. And so to do this, we want to be able to discover data sources automatically, inspect different data types and relationships, select the best visualization for data automatically, and recommend analysis. So with QuickSight, it's aimed at the less technical members of your team to analyze data as quickly as possible. To do this, we developed Spice, a super fast, parallel, in-memory computation engine. It offers 2 to 4 times the compression on columnar data, compiled queries, machine code generation, and rich multi-pass calculations. You can run select queries that against the Spice engine. You can determine how often do you want it to refresh data. You can determine if data is current, and you can tell Spice when to archive data. For example, if you have data older than a year, when even to remove it from your data warehouse. Also, Spice supports a number of partner platforms. So we want to share, also as part of Amazon QuickSight, give you the ability to share and collaborate using analysis. So we embedded live analysis capabilities into the platform, into the tool from the outset. You can also build live dashboards on QuickSight. And on screen now you can see an example of what the dashboards could look like. You could also, as an example, embed analysis in, say, websites or blogs or portals, etc. And it's available as native apps for both iOS and Android. So the next freedom, the freedom to get your data into or out of the cloud easily. So how do we move data into the cloud today? We have two ways to do it. You can upload data into the cloud, or you can use Direct Connect, which is our private dedicated connections between your data center and Amazon Web Services data centers. Those are the two key ways. You can also stream data into the cloud using one of our streaming services. And this is becoming more and more important, the ability to stream in real time information from your applications, workloads, or various other services into AWS. But we also saw a further need to take Amazon Kinesis, which we launched just over 2 years ago, and introduce a new service called Amazon Kinesis Firehose. This more easily allows you to load streaming data into AWS. You can use it to build custom applications to collect and store streaming data at a very high throughput. The data is ordered and has sub-second processing latency. Let me show you an example of Kinesis Firehose. So in this example on the screen here, you can see that any data from any source can be streamed directly into either Redshift or Amazon S3. You can make a single put call to Firehose and load data in real time. You can load data into S3 or Redshift or both, and we're working on more to come. And this means you can query data loading into high performance clusters, integrate with the rest of your application, because getting data end to end in a viewer application environment conditions has been a challenge previously. So what about migrating large volumes of data? If you have terabytes or gigabytes or terabytes of data, getting it from A to B, from your data centers into AWS, can be challenging. It can take a lot of time, or may just be logistically impossible. Even for companies with gigabit connections, it can take days or weeks to upload all the data you want from the cloud. So, we have this, never underestimate the bandwidth of a FedEx truck, how quickly and how much data you can move using traditional, manual ways of shipping this to us. Today we have our existing import-export service where you can send us disks and we'll import it into AWS Cloud. But customers said to us that this is challenging, involves coordination of multiple disks, and is not ideal. So we applied some inside-the-box thinking and came up with our Amazon Snowball service, a highly secure storage appliance to support the physical movement of data from your data center to ours. So if we, for example, had 100 terabytes of data, this can be moved using Snowball in less than a week. It's a custom-built physical appliance, very simple to load data, is automatically encrypted end-to-end, it's tamper-resistant, and it's a secure enclosure. An example of what customers were asking for when we developed Snowball was a customer may want to move 250 petabytes into AWS. How can they upload their data faster to us? And the faster we do it, we'll be able to retire our legacy infrastructure. So the requirements for the movement of data using Snowball were to make it secure, fast, incredibly simple to use, petabyte scale, and inexpensive. And as you can see here, this is the service we launched. 50 terabytes per Snowball appliance. It has an e-ink shipping label, which automatically is set to your data center when you order it, and once data is loaded, it's automatically electronically changed to the return address. It's a ruggedized case, it's rain and dust resistant, all data is automatically encrypted, the encryption keys are managed off the device. So just to, give you an example of the workflow for a Snowball, you'll have a large data set, you'll order a Snowball appliance, it gets shipped to you, you load it with data, and then it gets returned to us and we'll import it into AWS. You can also use multiple Snowball appliances, and 10 Snowball appliances is equivalent throughput of a 100 gig network connection. So the next freedom from bad database relationships. In the old world, databases were very expensive, proprietary, you had vendor lock-in, and you had punitive licensing agreements. Typically, the more important your database came, the bigger it got, the more your performance requirements were, your maintenance and licensing costs would increase. For that reason, we've seen more and more customers move to open source, more friendly, less expensive database engines. And this has been increasing over the last 5 or 6 years, such as MySQL, PostgreSQL. But to get comparable performance to a proprietary database is very difficult. We've seen this, and our customers have seen this. Just moving to MySQL and Postgres does not give the same performance. This is why we launched Amazon Aurora, an enterprise-grade open source, enterprise-grade performance with open source pricing. It's MySQL compatible, has up to 5 times performance of high-end MySQL. It's highly available and durable. It's our fastest growing service on AWS, and it's 1/10 the cost of enterprise databases. Some examples of customers using Amazon Aurora for increased availability, durability, which are at least as equivalent of commercial grade databases: General Electric, oil and gas, Yahoo, Expedia. Some good examples of customers using Amazon Aurora. But they're also asking us for additional paths to freedom. So more database options. Our customers are asking us for. Right now we have very broad range: MySQL, Postgres, Amazon Aurora, but we also have now support MariaDB on a relational database service. This is fully compatible with MySQL, open source, maintained by the community, and has a commitment to staying that way. Also, our customers are asking us to help migrate databases to the cloud. So the downtime during a migration could be hours to days, depending on the size of the database. There's an ability to and need to encrypt data during the move from on-prem to the cloud, and providing continuity of service while migration to the cloud is very challenging and difficult for so many customers. Downtime is often unavoidable, and the tools to migrate are expensive. So this year we've launched the AWS Database Migration Service to help you easily migrate production databases with minimal downtime to AWS Cloud. And let me just talk through some of the benefits of this service, what we're trying to help you do. We're trying to help you replicate data continuously, migrate the databases of any size, and real-time monitoring. You can migrate very large databases using this service, and it's aimed at production databases, not just dev and test. You can even use this service just for replication if you want. So for example, you can use this if you have on-premise MySQL. It'll help you migrate to Amazon Relational Database Service MySQL, Postgres to Postgres inside Amazon Relational Database Service, Oracle, and Microsoft SQL Server. So all 4 of these platforms. So with the AWS Database Migration Service, we're helping make it possible for you to move, for example, a 1 terabyte database for less than $3 in a way that's significantly less effort and dramatically reduces the downtime of your application during the migration. So the third one, migrate away from proprietary databases. Our customers have been saying, you know, I'm using a particular database, it's expensive, or it's not exactly where I want to be long term. How can you help me move to these other database services you have on Amazon Web Services Cloud? For example, the difficulty with moving between database and database engines is things such as the schema and data transformation, converting database functions, and then the migration of data. It's a difficult challenge. And to help with this challenge, we've launched the AWS Schema Conversion Tool to help you migrate between database engines reliably and easily. Let me show you some examples of this. So the Schema Conversion Tool takes care of the schema and data transformation between database types, converting tables, partitions, sequences of information, and the definitions from one database engine to another. Secondly, the tool can automatically rewrite code which is stored inside the database. This is really powerful. We're seeing, a lot of customers having stored procedures, triggers, functions inside their database, and when moving between database engine, it's important for that to be migrated to compatible code for the destination database engine. The database migration service supports this. Next freedom, the freedom to migrate. Enterprises follow a similar path. Many enterprises follow a similar path to the cloud. They have individual projects, maybe extending their existing data center to the cloud, scaling up and optimizing operations, or migrating an entire data center. And some examples of enterprises which are all in, such as Netflix, which in 2009 made a strategic decision to move their applications and much of their infrastructure to the cloud. Some other examples here. Hertz, you may know, The Guardian in the UK, Guardian publications, have an all-in strategy on AWS. Another example, FINRA, one of the largest independent security regulators in the US, they're all in on AWS and have an aggressive 36-month plan to move to AWS. There's also the option of transition to AWS with hybrid architectures, and a number of our customers are taking a hybrid approach, not necessarily all in, but key applications workloads or strategic applications workloads such as NTT Docomo and Samsung in Korea. And next freedom, the freedom to secure your cake and eat it. We have a broad range of accreditations, certifications on AWS, and we're constantly working on adding more. The benefit of the certifications is that once we have our platforms, our data centers or infrastructure certified, whether it's ISO 27001, 9001, SOC compliance, things like PSI DSS. Once we have the certification, you don't need to worry about it. Our data centers are certified for you, so you get that. Again, that's heavy lifting or cost that you don't need to cover in your business when you're running your applications in AWS Cloud. But aside from accreditations, we also have a broad set of services to help you secure applications in the cloud. The first category is a rich set of networking with virtual private cloud and our web application firewall, which we launched last month. We have a number of encryption services, our key management service, our cloud HSM service, server-side encryption as well. Our cloud HSM, it's helped you, meet your compliance needs by having a hardware appliance inside the AWS cloud for key management that is also fully compatible and compliant with any cloud HSM solution you run in your own data center. I should say physical appliances. We have identity management services,
Active Directory such as Active Directory Service, SAML Federation, IAM, Identity and Access Management Service, and of course finally, compliance services such as Service Catalog, CloudTrail, and Config. So, one of the challenges with our customers has been, with an inventory full of different resources, is managing the configuration of all the different resources. And for this, we've launched the AWS Config Rules. It allows you to set up compliance rules for different resource configurations for your AWS cloud infrastructure. This means you can trigger automatic actions when rules aren't met. And I'll just give you some examples. So you could use config rules to make sure you're fully compliant, or based on different actions they get undertaken. So for example here, if all our block storage volumes should be encrypted, the config rules action could be to encrypt the volume. So if someone creates a volume that isn't encrypted, it can automatically encrypt it for you. Or if all virtual service instances must be within a virtual private cloud, a VPC, then the action could be that the instance should be terminated. So if someone creates and deploys a virtual server that's not within a VPC, then automatically that server could, using a config rule, will be terminated. Another example, instances must be tagged with an environment type. And if an instance comes across like this that isn't tagged, then a developer should be paged. So another rule. Config rules also supports reports, built-in and custom rules for AWS Config. And you can see on screen here on the left-hand side an example of the reports console for config rules. You can also integrate Lambda functions with config rules, so that if a rule is in place for, let's say, a server, a disk is created and it's not encrypted, you can not only have a rule so that it's encrypted, but also that a Lambda function is run, which may cause another action to occur in your infrastructure. We provide a number of pre-built rules, such as encrypted volumes, attaching elastic IPs, instances in a virtual private cloud, resource tagging, and restricting open ports. So config rules is helping you to identify and remediate security and compliance issues early. You can write your own rules so that you're on top of and being proactive about what your security and compliance rule set are, to make sure your AWS cloud infrastructure is compliant with all the different security aspects of your business. We've also announced the Amazon Inspector service. This is now available in preview, and it provides automated security assessments for security or compliance issues when deploying applications on AWS. It can detect and remediate security issues early, such as what's being assessed. It comes with a built-in content library, has a detailed reporting capability, and has full audit trails. So previously our customers had two options. They could either deploy services fast in the cloud, or they could stay secure. But AWS Cloud it's not like that. We've designed and provided you with an Amazon Inspector service to help you both move fast and stay secure, achieve both things. We want you to be able to do both. So the next freedom is the freedom to say yes. And just an example of what we mean by this. We have I just have some example startups here on the screen that from day one have had the ability to scale on AWS, such as Periscope, Stripe, Slack, Pinterest, and Tinder. We believe that the cloud is a driver for digital transformation. Some examples, some more customer examples for you. I'm going to just keep going. So we have introduced a large number of services this year that I talked about before. Through this talk, I talked about QuickSight, talked about Snowball, talked about our migration service. We've also launched another number of other services such as API Gateway, Device Farm, Web Application Firewall. These we believe help with the freedom to control your own destiny and be able to develop the applications and workloads and get them live for your customers as fast as possible. So if you have questions now, we have people ready. We have a number of solution architects available on, waiting to take questions and answers. Thanks for attending this webinar. The next webinar coming up in an hour and 15 minutes. If you have questions, we'll be available for the next 15 minutes related to either any of the content in this webinar and any of the new services mentioned in it. Thanks for listening.
We have a number of solution architects available to answer your questions. If you want to type your questions into the question box in the GoToWebinar console. We've got a number of questions coming in. Just looking at them now and seeing if there's any worth mentioning to everyone. We did have one question that's come in: is this just be able to go from AWS to local in order to develop? Question is to go from local to AWS. So I think if I'm understanding what your question is, I think the question is, are our new tools and services, are we working just so to move data from on-premise or hosted existing hosting solutions, however you're currently hosting your current applications, to AWS. We're trying to develop our services to help you both, of course, go from existing infrastructure to AWS, but also to be able to take it back as well out of AWS back to your data center, whether it's with our hybrid services such as AWS Direct Connect, but making our services as easy as possible for you to move data from AWS Cloud services, whether it's storage or database or compute services, etc., back to wherever you need it inside your own data center. We have a number of customers where they will keep replicas of data both in the cloud and on-prem, or may decide to have an application in the cloud initially, then go back on-prem, or vice versa. So we're trying to make sure that services are flexible in either way. Yeah, we see what other questions we've got. So we've still got another 8 minutes or so to go in this session. Please, ask us any questions you have. Hi everyone, just reminding you that we have a number of solution architects available to answer questions. Keep sending your questions. We've had a number come in. I got a question just before asking regarding the AWS Schema conversion tool. Are there any prerequisites for the source database to convert it to a target database? So there is actually a number of prerequisites. There's also a number of things you should know before you start creating your schema conversion project, and there's also some best practices you need to know. The place to check these out are our online documentation, docs.aws.amazon.com/schema conversion tool. That's a really good place to start. There's also the main landing page for the schema conversion tool, which is aws.amazon.com/DMS. About the database migration service. Go to the AWS schema conversion tool documentation. We've got it available both HTML and PDF, I believe, and there's a number of different sections there, including prerequisites and best practices you should follow to use that tool. Let me see what other questions we've got. So we do have solution architects available now to answer questions. Please send us your questions. The team this webinar will stay open for another few minutes yet. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending this webinar today. This has been 2015, an amazing year with AWS. We talked about some of our new services and a lot of the things that customers have been talking to us about, why they are so passionate about moving to cloud and some of the business values and business benefits that we're trying to achieve. We have our second webinar coming up in 60 minutes. Which is Introduction to Cloud Computing, hosted by Amit Sharma. And this session will be talking about how you can leverage agile, reliable, and cost-effective cloud computing. So 60 minutes to go. Join us again for session 2 of our APAC webinar week.